one of the main points around the design of Lair. Basically, we knew that was actually we had early meetings with Ragi's controller design, and basically she said she's a woman, basically a Japanese woman. Very surprising. She was basically saying, well, are you what do you guys want? And I said, well, give me a relatively traditional controller, nothing totally wet, but please find me a motion control. I mean, we were back in the GameCube days, we were looking for it in Nintendo, and back then it was impossible. I mean, definitely so yeah, she said, okay, I don't know what the other guys said, so the Warhawk guys, for example, I don't know if they also voted on it, they never was reported. It was just that they told us, well, what do you want in the controller? And my biggest things were really, well, the lower ones in general, the lower buttons in there. So I'm super happy, pretty much.
How far along were you guys in the time you were aware that you were going to be able to
we were about a year into development at the time, but we had the whole time one basic design for the game, which is just motion control and one without motion control. And once we knew that we would be going the motion control route, we kind of threw the traditional stuff pretty quickly out of the way. So things like the Dragon model was completely different up until the motion control came. I mean, the flight stuff was pretty obvious when it was on, but then we also could do a lot more moves in the motion control and stuff like that. That really came in the moment it was designed.
Some of these moves that you're doing, I like the way that you were talking about earlier, the transitions from air to ground and into this kind of one-on-one combat.
Yeah.
It seems like it might be really complicated. How hard is it to really get into that combat with another player?
It's basically, you're locking onto one. It's very similar to change of first person shooter. So basically, you lock onto the dragon, and just hold down the one round, and then you just use your regular spin. So it's pretty well easy. That was an easy way to kill the one turn on the top of it.
Can you show us one where you got to actually get that one-on-one?
So first, we come out, and this is a full combo system. So basically, depending on which parts of the dragon are used, and it's basically very good for basically tying movement. But yeah, it's not that.
So the one-on-one where you're actually walking across the dragon, like that, is that something you're controlling, or that kind of?
That's cinematic, but it's time combat. So basically, it slows down. You have to time it right. Depending on your stats, it's actually tougher or not so tough. Eventually, on a potential sequel, I'd love to be completely interactive, but not in this way. Yeah, people first need to get used to everything else, then we can talk about that. But it's obviously for if we do another one, it would be an obvious thing.
Yes, various styles came up with the kind of a lot of things that are already predefined. Look where you guys are. What did you have in mind?
My personal thing was when internally it became clear that the best thing to do was actually using dragons. Basically get to the next level of flight combat and creatures and everything. I immediately said, no way, because I hate that. I hate so colorful. That is no way. So I challenged the artist actually to basically say, look guys, you can come up with a world, but I would actually believe in the outfit. So take some cues from medieval times, really. Make it dirty, make it pretty, live in, to use the old Star Wars reference there. I mean, George really got that right. I mean, science fiction before Star Wars also had this problem that it was kind of cheesy all the time. So people didn't get that the world was actually a believable world. So what we tried here was, for the dragons, for example, we said, well, let's not go any pre-existing notions of how dragons look, but let's go with anatomies which we see in nature. So let's look at bats or maze, and let's look at real reptiles, things like that. That's the inspiration, as opposed to what you know. It is a risk to a certain degree, because of course we're not fulfilling the idea of dragons. some Chinese, Japanese styles, American styles. We're also going kind of Western. It's this weird thing, melange of dinosaurs, kind of you think nowadays what dinosaurs look like, together with bats and things like that, but I think it makes it work.
The comment system that you were talking about earlier, the combos, was that something that would be learning more about?
Yes. It's actually, there's different dragon races, of course, which are fighting, and depending on dragon race, actually, you need to learn more and more complex combos and actually what's not active in this build is our carnage. It actually adds to kill other things. Carnage meter builds up, which basically heightens your rage, and with the rage, that's actually what unlocks other things. And so it's kind of a little bit inspired by the melee games in that sense.
Well, that brings up a question about the hunt. Can you explain what you're saying?
Oh yeah, the only hunt we can see right now, I mean, you also would have the light meter and the carnage meter normally, but what you're seeing here is actually the morale meter. So basically, this little bit of red there is the remaining morale of your troops, so they're pretty much normal right now.
Okay.
What the missions are actually oftentimes about is that there's just a battle raging on the ground where the two armies fight against each other. And what's also happening at the same time is that security afterwards, you have very specific goals. So, for example, take out the dragons from a distance. If you screw around too much with that, then your troops might start to lose because your numbers are coming back up. So that's really what the morale meter is about. So we've got this large strategy thing going. Came out of our kind of what we tried to do back then in Locate up the where you had these couple of dozen guys fighting down there. You never really felt that you were connected together. So here you actually have a really big team. You have to think about how to keep an eye on them and actually move down there. That's of course also what we can do on gameplay. It's just seems to come around. Because now there's a scale. Simply if there, just come down.
Well, that's another thing I want to ask you. You guys obviously pushing for that. How is it working in the military so far?
We were prepared for the first just going by what some teams usually were experiencing and lining off like this story. Actually, what wasn't that? We got the specs, the specs, early dev kits are always rough. Early dev kits are always rough. They were rough for 60, they were rough for 8 years, they were rough for PS3. But when Sony said, for example, you're going to get another wrap of the dev kit on date X, and it's going to have this and this and this feature, they're always a little bit of time. So when you're working on early titles, you need to kind of press the hardware hinges and say, well, you're going it off. There are some people like leaders who like this, but it's more work and doing it. So it's skills. I mean, so you can work anyone to know everything and work forever. It's not to the inherent architecture. It's much more comparable to 360 where even on 360 it's not that easy to develop because you need to narrow your program. That's the same thing on the PS3. It's just way more apparent on the top. And the graphics is a no-brainer because it's a video. My idea was the graphics tool would be really wacky when they said, you know guys, we're going to play standard video thinking. We said, oh, okay. So that wasn't all that bad. Now we're just getting it done now.
Yeah.
Our current timeline is spring 07. I'm sure you're going to see a lot more variants.